Guys, thanks for listening to the J. Scott Outdoors Western Big Game Hunting and Fishing podcast. I want to remind the listeners, you guys can email me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com with any questions, comments, anything you want to run by me, any photos. Love seeing trophy photos. If you need help field judging something, feel free to just send me an email. Please follow along on my Instagram at jscottoutdoors. You can also send me a direct message there, as well as my Facebook, J. Scott Outdoors on Facebook. Guys, I really appreciate your support. I get emails every day from listeners and direct messages on Instagram from you guys telling me your hunting stories, asking questions, and what have you. And it's that direct interaction with you guys that I really cherish. So I just want to encourage you to do so. Love to hear from you. Also, guys, thanks for supporting the 4 sponsors that have made this podcast possible. And if you haven't, check out the show notes down at the bottom, and you can find the 4 sponsors: Go Hunt Insider, Kuiu Ultralight Hunting, Phonescope.com, and theoutdoorsmans.com. And this podcast wouldn't be possible without those sponsors. And I hear from those sponsors virtually every day that you guys, the listeners, have used the different promo codes. You've talked to the people at the company, and you mentioned this podcast, and that means a lot to me. I want to thank them for their support, and I want to thank you guys. And let's get right to this episode.
Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today I have friend Tom McReynolds of Black Mountain Outfitters on the line, and Tom's going to give us a report on how the Elk Rut is doing over there in New Mexico. Tom, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. So how is it going over there in New Mexico? I guess is the first hunt just ending? And how are the conditions? What's shaping up over there?
The first week of September was honestly really slow. The rut was slow, and it's been picking up the past 2 days. I mean, it's just really started to change. It's been very hot in our area. It's been unseasonably hot. And we've got a few little storms that have come in and cooled it down and started to pick the action up a little bit. I mean, just 2 nights ago, I think 4 of our clients killed bulls all in one evening. So it's really started to pick up. The first hunt was one of the slowest hunts I've ever seen. And normally I wouldn't have thought it was going to be that way because the feed is really good and the horn growth is good, but the rut has just kind of been slow to start. I think it has a lot to do with the weather. That as we get into September, though, the rut will probably be pretty strong once it gets up and rolling. And, gun season will be good now. So the rut will be strong through October.
Tom, normally is the first season, are you seeing noticeably different or warmer temperatures than normal years? I mean, has it been a consistent 10-day period of, it's hot, one hot day after another, whereas on other years maybe you have intermittent storms and such? Or, has it just definitely been an abnormal year as far as temperature?
Yeah, it has. The first 8 or 9 days of September were just really hot, dry. Just really tough conditions. I mean, we had a full moon. It was hot. The elk were just being very nocturnal. The past 3 or 4 days, we've gotten some storms in. It's been a little cooler. It gets hot during the day, but it cools down with the storms. Gets the elk up and moving. The moon's dark now. I mean, it's gotten significantly better, but it definitely will continue to get better into the next season. The next season technically starts on the 15th. That'll be the last season we run, but it should be cranking pretty good by then.
Okay, and as far as antler growth, is it just a good year? Is it a banner year? Is it a little too soon to tell, or what's your observations of you and your guides?
On our private land, there's been some really big bulls starting to pop out. The horn growth is good. I can't say it's necessarily great right now. We've seen some really big bulls on public land that are 380 plus. They've been hard to kill. The rut just, like I said, isn't going yet. And we had some guys that did have some opportunities on the early season on some really big bulls, but they just didn't close the deal. And now those bulls have cows, but if they're not bugling, it's a lot tougher. So the horn growth, I would say, is good, and depending on what we see here in the next week, it could be great. I mean, we've seen some giant bulls. I mean, anytime you're seeing bulls that go over 380, you're definitely there on good horn growth. So we haven't seen anything abnormally huge, but that could all change in the next week.
Yeah, and talking about kind of the slow rut in the beginning of the month, how much of it do you think was temperature, and how much of it do you think is full moon? I mean, to me, those are two strikes against you right off the bat starting out. I would say that almost full moon is even worse than hot temperatures, just because it makes them, like you said, totally nocturnal. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
What we see here, they'll move more, even when there is a full moon, they'll move at odd times during the day. I mean, if you sit on elk all day, they could be moving at times you don't even realize. I mean, you can bed a bull in the morning and go back to hunt him in the evening, and he's in a completely different spot. So that means some point during the day he got up and moved. I really think it's kind of the heat right now, or was the heat, because as soon as we started getting some storms in, they started to become a lot more active a lot earlier. I mean, it just, the other night I was out, and there was some. It was after dark, and there was just a lot of rut activity. I mean, they were just going ballistic, and that's one of the only areas that it's been like that. But come first light, half hour before sunrise, those elk had gone completely silent, and they rutted hard all night. Because I mean, they were just going, they were going nuts. It was as good as it gets, and then as the sun started to come up, we came to sunrise, they just went quiet, and they laid down by 7:30 in the morning. They were bedded, and it just makes it really tough. I kind of attribute it more to the heat. The full moon definitely isn't helping.
For sure.
It didn't help.
As we move into kind of the middle part of September, it's the 13th right now, and with the next archery season starting on the 15th, and I believe Arizona starts on Friday as well. We're going to have, the moon's getting darker and darker. So all conditions as far as moon and as far as it sounds like the bulls are starting to get going. And actually I see a few little storms kind of on the horizon. You have to be fairly optimistic about, say, the next 15 days.
Yeah, it'll only get better. I mean, the past 2 to 3 days in my camp has been awesome. I mean, we've killed a lot of bulls. I mean, it has just been really rocking and rolling. And so it'll only get better. I mean, it's supposed to cool down more. And as it gets cooler, these elk will really start going. What we, for some reason over here, what we see is just the cooler the temperatures, the better. I mean, when we get towards the end of September and we get a frost condition where it'll frost the first time. I mean, those elk just go nuts. I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely, to me, it's more of a weather, situation. So it's going to get good because we're going to cool down. The rut's, progressing. The Arizona hunts over there, those guys should be right on the money for timing. So
good stuff. And you're primarily located, your base camp there is right there in Pie Town, is it not? And your kind of focus is on 12 and 13. So for the listeners out there, if you have tags in those units, and even down in 17 and the 15s, I'm sure it's a similar report, just getting better and better. With those guys out there that say have muzzleloader tags or have the first rifle season tags, what do you expect from what you've seen so far?
I think those hunts are going to be great. Usually when the rut's slow to start, it lasts longer. It's stronger longer into October. So I think those gun hunts that go from beginning of October through mid-October should be really good. That would just be, from what I've seen historically, I think that those are going to be just a great time to be out there, because the rut's just behind this year a little bit for some reason. So it'll push it back. It'll make it go a couple weeks longer.
That's good stuff. Have you had any other hunts, antelope, any success on antelope or mule deer or any of the other hunts, or was it a slow start for that as well?
We had a client on one of our private ranches kill a nice mule deer buck the other day. They've seen some giant mule deer that they just haven't been able to close the deal. We started the season off with a phenomenal antelope buck on an archery on one of our private ranches. We're going. I mean, the private ranch hunts are really starting to pick up. Our Unit 13 guys have been on some really big bulls. They just haven't been able to close the deal. And they've seen some great bulls, and when they see bulls like that, they get pretty picky. They want to, if they see a 370, 380 plus bull, that's the bull that they want to kill. So, they've been trying to kill better bulls. Unit 10, we've got one hunter up there. He's a little slow. It's been a little slow in Unit 10. Very nocturnal up there for some reason still. But it's picking up. So we have till the 24th that we can hunt here. So I have a feeling this last 8 to 10 days is going to be just, right in it. I think it's going to be right on the money. And these hunters are going to have really good hunts, and the archery season is going to finish strong.
Fantastic, man. Well, I know you've got to get out in the field off for an evening hunt today, so I'll let you go. I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how they can find you. They can also look down in the show notes of the episode on iTunes or on Podbean. But, Tom, why don't you tell the listeners how they can best find you?
The best way to find us is our website, bmohunts.com, or you can find us on Instagram. It's at Black Mountain Outfitters _Inc. Those are the best ways to find us. Follow us on Instagram, and I try to post things. It's kind of hard for me to post this time of the year because I'm so busy in the field, but that's where we post all of our current stuff. So.
All right, buddy. Thanks for the report. God bless you, and hope to continue to see some great stuff coming out of Black Mountain Outfitters like always. And keep up the great work, okay?
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.